Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Shotar Sata Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Shotar Sata Shri Srimad, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kala Chanji Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gonitai Ki Jai. Nisimare Bhagavan Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. All glorious to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glorious to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. I am Janardana Krishna Das, traveling here from Atlanta, Georgia. Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji have very mercifully given me shelter here. And by the mercy of all of the Vaishnavas, all of the devotees, special thanks to Nrsimha Rupa Prabhu for allowing us to be here and giving me the opportunity to speak. Today we will be discussing 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the advent of Lord Krishna, and this is texts 5 through 7. It's a bit of a lot, so I was thinking we could chant the first verse together. Then I could do the remaining 2 verses. We could go through the word-for-word meanings, and then do like that. Is that okay, Prabhu? So you can repeat after me. Pitamaha me samare Maranjaya Devavratad Yatadiratais Timingalaihi Duratyayam Kaurava Sainya Sagaram Kritva Taran Vatsapadam Sma Yat Plavaha. Pitamaha me smare marn Pitamaha me samare maranjayer Pitamaha me samare maranjayer Deva Vratadyatirataistimingalaih Deva Vratadyatirataistimingalaih Duratyayam Kauravasainya Sagaram Duratyayam Kauravasainya Sagaram Kritva taranvatsapadam smayat plavaha Kritva taranvatsapadam smayat plavaha Pitamahame samare maranjaya Deva Vratadyatirataistimingalaih Duratyayam Kauravasainya Sagaram Kritva taranvatsapadam smayat plavaha Devotees can please chant. Pitamahame smare maranjaya Tayam Auravasainya Sagaram Kitvataran Vatsaparam Smayat Plavaha Amahame Maranjaya Deva Vratadya Stimingalaihi Yamburavasainya Sagaram Kritva taranvatsapadam smayat plavaha Tamahame samare maranjaya Duratyayam Kauravasainya Sagaram Vataran Vatsapadam Smayat Plavaha Pitamahame Samare Maranjaya Vrataya Pratyayam Kauravasainya Sagaram Vataran Vatsapadam Smayat Plavaha Pitamahame Samare Maranjaya Deva Vratadya Tirataisti Mingalaihi. Turatyayam Kauravasainya Sagaram. Kritva taran vatsapadam smayat plavaha. Okay. So I'll chant these remaining two verses and we can go to the word for its meanings. Dronyastra vipul shtamidam mad angam santana bijam kurupandavanam jugopa kukshim gata ata chakro matushtameya sharanam gatayaha viryani tasya kiladeha bhajam antarbahi purushakala rupaihi prayacchato mrityumudamritam cha maya manushyasya yasya vadasva vidvan. So we can, do we chant the word by word meanings together? Or okay, so we can do that. Pitamaha, my grandfathers, the five Pandavas, Yudhishthir, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadev. May my Samare, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Amaram Jayehi, the fighters who could gain victory over the demigods on the battlefield. Deva Vrata Adya, Bhishma Dev and others. Hatirathaihi, commanders in chief. Timingalaihi, resembling great Timingala fish, which can easily eat large sharks. Duratyayam, very difficult to cross. Kaurava Sainya Sagaram, the ocean of the assembled soldiers of the Kauravas. Kritva, considering such an ocean. Ataran, crossed it. Vatsapadam, exactly as one steps over small hoofprint of a calf. Sma, in the past. Yat plavaha, the shelter of the boat of Krishna's lotus feet. Droni, of Ashvathama. Astra, by the Brahmastra. Vipushtam, being attacked and burned. Idam, this. Matangam, my body. Santanam bijam, the only seed left, the last descendant of the family. Kuru Pandavanam, of the Kurus and the Pandavas, because no one but me lived after the battle of Kurukshetra. Jugopa, gave protection. Kukshim, within the womb. Gataha, being placed. Ata chakraha, taking in hand the disc. Mautu, of my mother. Cha, also. Me, my. Yaha, the Lord who. Sharanam, the shelter. Gatayaha, who had taken. Viryani, the glorification of the transcendental characteristics. Tasya, of him, the supreme personality of Godhead. Akila deha bhajam, of all the materially embodied living entities. Antabahihi, inside and outside. Purusha, of the supreme person. Kala rupaihi, in the form of eternal time. Prayachataha, who is the giver. Mrityum, of death. Uta, it is so said. Amritam cha, and eternal life. Maya manushyasya, of the Lord who appeared as an ordinary human being by his own potency. Vadasva, kindly describe. Vidvan, O learned speaker, Shukadev Goswami. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation, taking the boat of Krishna's lotus feet, my grandfather, Arjuna, and others crossed the ocean of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in which such commanders as Bhishmadev resembled great fish that could have very easily swallowed them. By the mercy of Lord Krishna, my grandfathers crossed this ocean, which was very difficult to cross, as easily as one steps over the hoof print of a calf. Because my mother surrendered unto Lord Krishna's lotus feet, the Lord's Sudarshan Chakra in hand entered her womb and saved my body, the body of the last remaining descendant of the Kurus and the Pandavas, which was almost destroyed by the fiery weapon of Ashvatthama. Lord Sri Krishna, appearing within and outside of all materially embodied living beings by his own potency in the forms of eternal time, that is, as Paramatma and as Virat Rupa, gave liberation to everyone, either as cruel death or as life. Kindly enlighten me by describing his transcendental characteristics. Purport. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.58, Samastriya ye pada plavam mahat padam punya yasho murehe pavam bhudir vatsa param padam yad vipadam natesham. For one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, or the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. His goal is Padam, or Vaikuntha, the place where there is no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. One who seeks shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna is immediately protected by the Lord. As the Lord promises in Bhagavad Gita 1866, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayisyami ma suchaha. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions, do not fear. By taking shelter of Lord Krishna, one becomes under the safest protection. Thus, when the Pandavas took shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, all of them were on the safe side of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Parikshit Maharaj therefore felt obliged to think of Krishna in the last days of his life. This is the ideal result of Krishna consciousness. Ante Narayana Smritihi. If at the time of death one can remember Krishna, one's life is successful. Parikshit Maharaj, therefore, because of his many obligations to Krishna, intelligently decided to think of Krishna constantly during the last days of his life. Krishna had saved the Pandavas, Maharaj Parikshit's grandfathers, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Krishna had saved Maharaj Parikshit himself when he was attacked by the Brahmastra of Ashvatthama. Krishna acted as the friend and worshipful deity of the Pandava family. Moreover, apart from Lord Krishna's personal contact with the Pandavas, Krishna is the super soul of all living entities, and he gives liberation even if one is not a pure devotee. Kamsa, for example, was not at all a devotee, yet Krishna, after killing him, gave him salvation. Krishna consciousness is beneficial to everyone, whether one is a pure devotee or a non-devotee. This is the glory of Krishna consciousness. Considering this, who will not take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna? Krishna is described in this verse as Maya Manushya, because he descends exactly like a human being. He is not obliged to come here like karmis or ordinary living beings. Rather, he appears by his own energy, sambhavam yatma mayaya, just to show favor to the fallen conditioned souls. Krishna is always situated in his original position as Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha, and anyone who renders service to him is also situated in his original spiritual identity, Svarupena Vyavastitihi. This is the highest perfection of human life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutav Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari. Taking the boat of Krishna's lotus feet, my grandfather Arjuna and others crossed the ocean of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in which such commanders as Bhishmadev resembled great fish that could have easily swallowed them. By the mercy of Lord Krishna, my grandfathers crossed this ocean, which was very difficult to cross, as easily as one steps over the hoofprint of a calf. Because my mother surrendered unto Krishna's lotus feet, the Lord, Sudarshan Chakra in hand, entered her womb and saved my body, the body of the last remaining descendant of the Kurus and the Pandavas, which was almost destroyed by the fiery weapon of Ashvatthama. Lord Sri Krishna, appearing within and without of all materially embodied living beings by his own potency in the forms of eternal time, that is, as Paramatma and as Virat Rupa, gave liberation to everyone, either as cruel death or as life. Kindly enlighten me by describing his transcendental characteristics. This is the beginning here of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is described by our acharyas like the beautiful smiling face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here, Maharaj Parikshit, who is the hearer of the Bhagavatam here, he is describing for us as an introduction, because the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it describes directly Lord Krishna's pastimes. So Parikshit Maharaj, he's describing why and how he has a very personal relationship and experience in surrendering to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One very large theme in this translation and purport that Srila Prabhupada is describing is he talks about this idea of shelter. Shelter is seen as something as very important. Even great psychoanalysts, there was one, Maslow, he described one's constitutional hierarchy of needs. And in the first ring, which is one's basic necessity, one needs things like food, like water, like shelter. So shelter is actually a very basic necessity which all of us need and which all of us are very much searching after. Everyone, they're looking for some kind of shelter. Even the materialists who have no idea about the transcendental pastimes and nature of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they're also working so hard day and night for some shelter. But the problem is that the things that they're taking shelter of, they're temporary or they're not real. Srila Prabhupada described this material world almost like a dream, or like a mirage in the desert. So in this analogy, Prabhupada said that throughout one's day, one might see gold, one might see a mountain, and in one's dream, they see a big golden mountain, which doesn't exist, but that doesn't mean that the gold or the mountain don't exist. Similarly, in the desert, when one sees a mirage, it isn't that there is an absence of water completely in the desert, but the thing that they're looking to take shelter of is unreal. It's temporary. It's not a real or permanent thing. So we should understand what is actually worth taking shelter of. And Srila Prabhupada, quoting here from Srimad Bhagavatam, he describes that for one who has real shelter, the symptom of one who has found real shelter is that the problems of this material world, they almost dry up completely. This theme is actually very common throughout the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a couple more analogies like that. I'll pull up one verse here. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse number 17, where the Bhagavatam describes that the human body, which can award all benefit in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is a very rare achievement. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat, having the spiritual master as the captain, and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds impelling it on its course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. So, this verse here, it's describing what the material world is like for most people. It's a turbulent ocean, full of waves, storms, ups and downs. And for one who doesn't have proper shelter, this material world is a very, very difficult place. Not only is it very difficult, but it's very dangerous also. This first verse here that Srila Prabhupada quotes, the last line says, Padam padam na vipadam natesham. That this material world is described as a place where there's danger at every single step. Krishna also in the Gita, he says that this material world is dukalayam ashashvatam, that it's a temporary and very miserable place. And we should understand this, and we should search for something that is real shelter. And in that verse in the 11th canto that I just quoted, Bhagavatam is describing what real shelter actually is. That when one has this valuable human body, which is considered to be like a good boat, a suitable boat to cross over the ocean of material existence, that's the starting place. And we can see we're very fortunate here to have received this good boat. And then secondly, one must have an expert captain, because if one simply has a boat and they set it to sail in the ocean, the winds will just blow it here, there, and everywhere. It won't have a proper direction or a proper course. Me and my friends, we travel all over the country, so we utilize the service of Google Maps a lot. And without this, if we just simply went on the road and tried to guess where we were going to go, we would not end up in our correct destination. We would not end up where we're trying to go. So one who has a very expert guide, a very expert captain, which is described as the spiritual master, he can actually guide one. He can guide this favorable boat on its course. And then it says that the instructions are like the favorable winds, because even if one has a good boat and an expert captain, if there's no winds or the winds are unfavorable, then the boat still won't go anywhere. Previously, boats, they didn't have these big motorized engines and these, I think they're mostly diesel engines on these boats now. But with no engine and with no winds, the boat isn't going to go anywhere. So the practitioner of Krishna consciousness not only should accept a bona fide spiritual master, but they should follow the instructions of the spiritual master. That is the most important, because with all of these three things combined, then crossing the material ocean becomes very easy. Like is described, it becomes like the footprint of a calf. I don't know how many here have got to be with a young cow, a calf. But like most animals, their footprints are, like most young animals, their footprints are very small. So this great material ocean, which is very turbulent, which is very dangerous to cross, that same ocean shrinks up and becomes as easy to cross like the footprint of a calf. So this is very good news, actually. We should all take full advantage of this great opportunity that we have, because Srila Prabhupada describes this situation here as the highest perfection of human life. And all of us who have this great opportunity, we should use it, because that verse that I was quoting, it describes that one who has all these good things but doesn't fully utilize it is described to be the killer of their own soul. This is something that's very heavy, actually, very dangerous. It's a warning that's given here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Obviously, in the teachings of the Gita, Krishna himself, he describes that the soul actually can't be killed. It cannot be cut into pieces. It cannot be burned. It cannot be withered. It's eternal. It actually can't be destroyed. But this example is given because for one who has such a great opportunity in this human form of life, and has given these valuable instructions of Krishna consciousness, they have the opportunity in this very lifetime to go back home, back to Godhead, to attain their original constitutional position, and exist as the spirit soul in the spiritual world serving Krishna. So for one who has this opportunity, this very great opportunity, and doesn't take full advantage of it, it's almost like they're killing their own soul, because they have such great opportunity, they have such an advantageous position, yet they don't take to it. So this is something that's very important, and we see it's common for most people, unfortunately, that they'll acknowledge the importance. They might be practicing Krishna consciousness. They might be introduced to the principles, the practices. They might be introduced to a bona fide spiritual master and receive some instructions. But they say, I'm so busy now. I have so many things to do. I'll do this when I get older. And actually, the other day we were distributing books, and I met one gentleman, and I was trying to distribute to him a set of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he was hesitant, and he was saying, he was about 40 years old. He had a wife and a kid. And he was saying, no, I don't have time right now. I'm so busy. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I was describing to him this very concept, that you have such a valuable opportunity of this human form of life, where you have the intelligence to actually grasp and understand who is God, what is your relationship with God, and engage in some sort of higher spiritual purpose, higher spiritual practice. And I told him otherwise, most people, they're just living like animals, simply eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And he thought about it for a second, and he was like, yeah, most of my life, actually, I'm living like an animal. And I told him the story of Maharaj Parikshit, how he was told that he only had 7 days left to live. So using his intelligence and obviously understanding of Krishna that he had, he took that opportunity to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, because he understood that death is coming very soon. So I should make the most out of my opportunity that I have, my valuable human form of life. And then another story from Bhagavatam that I also told him was the story of Ajamil, where the Lord, he's so powerful and so merciful that Ajamil, he simply uttered the name of his son, Narayan, which is the name of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Krishna gave him this second chance, this opportunity to perfect his life, to engage in Krishna consciousness, right? It isn't that when he chanted the name of Narayan, he immediately went back to Vaikuntha, but it's described that the Lord, he gave him a second chance. He gave him an opportunity, some extra time, right? He was on his deathbed. He was about to be taken away by the Yamadutas to the hellish worlds. But because of this one thing, Krishna gave him this second chance. He gave him some more time, some more opportunity to perfect their life by Krishna consciousness. And this gentleman, after hearing all these things, he was like, yeah, I always keep telling myself that, when I retire, when I'm 60 years old, when I'm 70 years old, then I'll take to a more spiritual life, then I'll take to a more spiritual practice. But yeah, truly death could come at any moment. And I was describing to him, especially with all these roads and highways, you see almost every day there's an accident on the highway. And Yudhishthira Maharaj, he said that the most amazing thing in this whole world isn't the splendor of nature, isn't the beauty of life, isn't the wonders of gravity or science, but it's that every day people, they hear about death, they see people around them leaving this world, but they think, no, this won't happen to me. I'll be able to be the exception. I'll be able to live my life in such a way where I won't have to die. And we see most people, they're living their life just like this. They're accumulating so many temporary material things which at the time of death become completely useless to them. And this idea that, I'll be in complete Maya for my whole life, and then right before the time of death, I'll become completely Krishna conscious, it's not a very good plan, actually. Because we can see the desires that we cultivate throughout life, that's what will actually fructify at the time of death. If you have a field and you're planting some seeds, you're trying to grow some crops, and say that the main thing that you're trying to grow is something very good, very nutritious, like wheat or rice. But for almost the whole year, you just plant weeds. You plant weeds in this garden the whole time. And then 2 days before harvest, you throw some grain seeds, and you expect in 2 days for you to harvest a whole bunch of nutritious grain. This isn't actually a very intelligent proposition, because one who has intelligence, they'll realize that, you spent most of the year simply planting weeds, which grow without any care, which grow without any nourishment. Anyone who has kept a garden can understand the annoyance of, these weeds. They literally come without any any inclination or motivation at all. And they simply grow. You don't have to water them. They can be no sun out for days, but these weeds, they simply grow like anything, But the nutritious plants, you really have to cultivate them. You have to take care of the soil. You have to water them. You have to make sure that you plant them at the right time. So for one who's actually intelligent, they won't simply wait till the end of life. They won't say, oh, tomorrow I'll do this, tomorrow I'll do this, tomorrow I'll do this. But they'll not put off for tomorrow what can actually be done today. They'll take full advantage of every moment, knowing that, this could be my very last moment. And that doesn't mean that the devotees of the Lord, they live in fear of death. But actually, at the end of the Bhagavatam, in the 12th canto, after Maharaj Parikshit, he hears all these things. It's described that he becomes completely fearless, abhayam, completely free of all sorts of fear. Because one who understands their relationship with Krishna and the nature of themselves as eternal servants of Krishna can understand that this death, it's simply like the changing of bodies. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's described that the changing of bodies at death is just as simple as one changes their clothes, One changes clothes and puts on different ones almost every single day. It isn't something that we think about very much, actually. So for one who's in knowledge, they aren't afraid of death. This is actually one of the qualities of one who's in knowledge, is they become completely fearless. And we get a lot of encouragement, actually, from the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna himself, he describes in the 8th chapter, verse number 6, Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tayajyante kalevaram tam tam e vaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. That whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So this is the assurance that Krishna gives. And Prabhupada is quoting here in the purport the other assurance. Krishna gives many, but connected here, this verse 1866, Sarva dharman prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayasyami mahasuchaha. That for one who completely gives up all other ideas of work, ideas of religion, and simply surrenders unto Krishna, which means taking full shelter, right? First I was talking about shelter. So surrendering to Krishna means taking full shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, taking full shelter of Krishna. Then one actually doesn't have to be afraid of anything, because they'll understand no matter what situation, Krishna, he will protect me. And we can see Maharaj Parikshit, who's hearing the Bhagavatam, but who's speaking here, he had practical experience of this. That Ashvatthama, he tried to kill Maharaj Parikshit with a very great weapon of the Brahmastra, which is one of the most powerful weapons actually in ancient Vedic times. It's Prabhupada, when trying to give like a relevant comparison, he would describe it like an atomic bomb, but something that's like very localized. It can be very specific. So this Brahmastra, it's actually very, very great. And it's very hard to counteract this weapon. So even though Ashvatthama, he released this very dangerous weapon, because Parikshit Maharaj describes that his mother was completely surrendered to Krishna, that Krishna gave her full protection. And we should actually be very, very thankful that Krishna did this for Maharaj Parikshit, because it's because, because Krishna does everything for a reason. It isn't that he just saved Parikshit Maharaj just whimsically. But Maharaj Parikshit, one of the reasons why he was saved was so he could be the dharmic king at the onset of Kali Yuga, but also so we could have right now this Srimad Bhagavatam. And having this Srimad Bhagavatam is very nice, obviously, for ourselves. But one of the nicest things about Srimad Bhagavatam is that you can give Srimad Bhagavatam to, or you can try to give Srimad Bhagavatam to anyone and everyone that you meet. This gentleman who I was describing earlier, he, after describing all these things to him, he purchased the full set of Srimad Bhagavatam. And yeah, I told him that, even if he can start with just 5 minutes every single day reading Bhagavatam, because we understand that, this Srimad Bhagavatam, it's so amazing, it's so nectarian that for one who simply starts, they'll get a taste for this amazing knowledge, because in all of Prabhupada's books, you'll see that it's something that you can't find anywhere else, Prabhupada's books are so amazing. I was with Drishtadyumna Prabhu yesterday. We were distributing books, and we were reflecting on this point, that Prabhupada, he was speaking once to Shrutakirti Prabhu, and he was talking about his Krishna book, which is the story form of this 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada himself, he read his own books, because he said, actually, I didn't write these books, but Krishna, he was there personally describing to me what I should write, every single word, every single line. So Prabhupada, he was reading his own Krishna book, and he was like, wow, this Krishna book is so amazing. Simply by reading this book, one can attain perfection. And then Prabhupada said, actually, one doesn't even have to read the whole book. They can just read one chapter, and they'll be completely happy. If like they can read one chapter, they'll be completely perfect. And then Prabhupada said, actually, one chapter isn't even sufficient. But one page of this Krishna book is so special, it's so perfect, that if one just understands one page, then that'll be the most perfect thing they can do. And then Prabhupada went even further. He said, actually, one page might be even too much, even one sentence. And Prabhupada said, one word, actually. If one understands just one word, then that can be the perfection of their life, Because we can see that this Srimad Bhagavatam at most of Srila Prabhupada's temples across the world, people are giving classes on this wonderful Srimad Bhagavatam, and this will continue. It's described that Ananta Shesha, even though he has millions and millions of mouths, he still can't even begin to describe the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, of Krishna, of these wonderful pastimes, of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So we can see that these books are so potent, they're so powerful that even just one word, if one fully understands just one of these words, then one can actually attain perfection in life. That's the benediction that Srila Prabhupada is giving. And he describes here that Krishna consciousness is beneficial for everyone. And he gives the example of himself and the Pandavas, and he also gives the example of Kamsa, because Kamsa, even though he was a big demon, he was a big materialist, he was so afraid of Krishna that he was thinking of Krishna always. He was always thinking about Krishna, meditating on him in fear. And it's described that Krishna, he also liberated Kamsa, because at the time of death, Kamsa, throughout the past years of his life, all he was thinking about was Krishna. So at the time of death, he was also thinking about Krishna. So he even gave liberation to Kamsa. He gave that liberation from this material world to even Kamsa. So we shouldn't aim and strive to be like Kamsa, who is afraid of Krishna and who is acting in enmity towards Krishna. But the Bhagavatam, it gives us examples of so many great devotees. Actually, if you look, it's almost in all phases of life, right? In Bhagavatam, we hear about Ajamil, we hear about Parikshit, we hear about Queen Kunti, but we even hear about Gajendra, who is in the body of an elephant. But because he completely surrendered and took shelter of Krishna, Krishna also gave him liberation from his suffering situation. So we should follow in the footsteps. Maharaj Parikshit, he's encouraging those to follow in the footsteps of the Pandavas. Right? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yad yada charati shreshtas tatta deve taro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas taranuvartate. That one should follow in the footsteps of the great personalities and do as the great personalities have done. So we can see by the example of all of these devotees, by the examples of Srila Prabhupada, particularly here in Dallas, we can see the example of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who His Grace Mukunda Datta Prabhu described as the manifestation of Guru Nishta. Guru Nishta means what it's like to be completely surrendered to the Guru, to the name, form, qualities, instructions, and pastimes of the spiritual master. And we can see that just by firm faith in the instructions of his spiritual master, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was able to do so much. Pretty much this whole temple, this whole community that we have here is all by the mercy of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So we can pray for the mercy of these great devotees and follow in their footsteps by my Guru Maharaj. He often says that many times people ask him questions, how to be surrendered, how to be sincere, how to be a good devotee. And he says these questions, they're too vague because, people have very different situations. But one thing he says to everyone is that the best thing to do if you're trying to develop some kind of quality is find a devotee who has this quality, who is sincere, who is surrendered, who has lots of devotion, and you should serve this devotee. And then by serving that devotee, you'll actually develop these qualities that you're aspiring for. So every day before book distribution, we've been taking wonderful darshan of Sri Sri Radha Kalachandji, Jagannath Baladev, Subhadra, Sri Sri Gaurnitai. But I've also been making it a big point to take blessings from Srila Prabhupada and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, because by the mercy of the devotees, actually, anything is possible. Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. So for one who's surrendered to Krishna, because Krishna, he's the supreme controller, he can make anything possible. This battlefield of Kurukshetra, it was described like it was impossible. It was an impossible feat, actually, for the Pandavas to be victorious. But Krishna, he gave them the whole world in just 17 days because they were the Pandavas, they were surrendered to Krishna. So we can follow in the footsteps of the Pandavas, of Maharaj Parikshit, of Srila Prabhupada, of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, follow in the footsteps of the great devotees who we are inspired by, and by taking shelter and begging for their mercy, the impossible will become very easy, So that's all I had to say. I think time's almost up anyway. I wish I could have said more, or said things that are maybe a little more deep and analytical, but that's about all I could say based on my understanding. Thank you all very much for kindly giving me your attention and listening. Do we have any time for questions, Prabhu? Or if anyone has any questions or comments or concerns or anything?
So if I think of Mohini Morty, will I go to the spiritual world?
So Mohini Morty, she's an incarnation of Krishna. For one who's completely purified and who meditates on this pastime with pure consciousness, there's guarantee that they'll attain that destination. But what we should do is we should follow in the footsteps of our acharyas, like I've been describing, and they've, by their example, they've given us, very foundational things to try and understand first. All these wonderful pastimes of Krishna and everything with the gopis, they come in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. Means they come here because first we have to understand all the basic principles and basic understandings. So it's for one who is at that level, they can meditate on any pastime of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if they purely remember that pastime in a state of Krishna consciousness at the time of death, Krishna gives them the guarantee that, this person, they'll come back to Godhead.
He thinks it's Mohini Morty, right?
Yeah. So what we should do is we should cultivate throughout our whole life and try to deeply understand the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, of Srimad Bhagavatam, and by understanding the foundational points first, then actually we'll be able to gain entrance into these more elevated pastimes and everything like that. So, yeah. Anyone else? You have something, Prabhu?
You said that Krishna has written these books. Did I get that right?
Yeah. So, Prabhupada, he said that that he didn't write these books, but that Krishna, he was personally telling Prabhupada what he should write. So, like, there's one example that Prabhupada, he was doing an interview. I forget which devotee this was. Maybe Rameshwar Prabhu. Yeah. And Prabhupada said that God, he's talking to me directly. Just like I'm talking to you right now, God is also talking to me directly. And Rameshwar Prabhu, he tried to say that, this means that God is within Prabhupada's heart, and within the heart, he's having some dialogue, some kind of internal dialogue. And Prabhupada, he emphatically said, no, just like I'm talking to you and you are talking to me, I talk like this with Krishna. So, when Prabhupada would wake up at midnight every single night to dictate his books, if you actually, we have, very mercifully by the devotees, we have some videos of Srila Prabhupada as he was dictating. And Harikesh describes, because he, and in the 75, 76, he was in charge of getting the tapes to the BBT for transcription. And he said that sometimes even between two words, Prabhupada would pause for like 5 whole minutes. And between simple words like constantly and during, there would be like a 5-minute pause just between those two words, So this isn't something that, was just whimsically going on, but each word was selected. We can see, and for one who has that transcendental vision, we can see that each word has been selected by Krishna himself to be in these books, right? Prabhupada said that these books will be like the law books for the next 10,000 years. So it isn't just, something that was whimsical, which is why we consider the books of Srila Prabhupada to be our highest authority, because we can see that this was something that Krishna had his direct hand in giving to us. So, yeah, that was Krishna using Srila Prabhupada as an instrument to give these books to us.
Well, in regard to that, yeah, sometimes we see that there's things in Prabhupada's books that most people find either unacceptable or unapplicable for nowadays.
Sure.
So, for instance, in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says in one of his purports that dogs and cats should not be allowed into the house. So I've had devotees tell me that's just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's, another statement. So everything's true. We have to accept everything as being true in Prabhupada's books because it's spoken by Krishna. But how do we deal with things that are just, they just don't seem right to anybody?
The thing is, anyone can come up with their own ideas. They can say, yeah, Prabhupada said like this, but I'll actually do like this because I know better. But we can see that, one won't be the loser if they simply follow the instructions that are there in Srila Prabhupada's books. One doesn't have to feel like they're missing out on the great opulence of having cats and dogs in their home, because they understand that they're getting the highest thing of following directly what's there in Srila Prabhupada's books. So some people say some things, and we also have to see where one is at. Obviously, if one is a new devotee or just coming to Krishna consciousness and we go in their home and they have a cat, and you say, like, what the heck is this? Prabhupada says in 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that you should not have any cats and dogs in your home, right? That isn't like a regulative principle. It isn't like at initiation we say, yeah, I'll chant 16 rounds, I'll follow 4 regulative principles, and I'll not keep cats and dogs in my home, right? So this is a detail that can be of great importance and benefit, because it isn't that Prabhupada's just saying that whimsically, but he's saying that because the home should be like a temple. It should be kept very clean, and these animals, generally, they're considered to be very dirty. So, the clean external, if we keep our external environment clean, it means that our mind will also be clean. So if our mind is clean, it'll be easier for us to keep Krishna there in our mind. So Prabhupada, he's saying all these things for a reason, So we should use our intelligence. Obviously, like I said, it isn't like the first thing we should tell someone is you should not keep a cat or a dog or any of these things. We should encourage them, no, you should read Prabhupada's books, you should chant. And eventually, if one chants their 16 rounds, they read Prabhupada's books, eventually they'll be able to say, yeah, I don't need to have a cat and a dog in my home. So that's what I would say, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Mother.
Hare Krishna. So wonderful. Thank you for your class. Thank you so much. So in this, in this purport, the section that says Krishna is the super soul of all living entities, and he gives liberation even if one is not a pure devotee, and he gives the example of Kamsa. So in listening to your class, actually, Kamsa, so many people are Kamsa today. They're inimical of Krishna.
Yes.
Yes, they don't want to hear about Krishna. When we go out sometimes in Lower Greenville and distributing books and chanting, so people will walk by and you'll approach them and try and connect with them, and they say, I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Uh-huh.
So at any rate, in listening to you with your book distribution and how you spoke with this gentleman, you connected with his eternal soul.
Mm.
You covered, he said, that's right, I've been living like an animal.
Yeah.
But you brought him to a higher taste, actually, by giving practical examples that brought him in touch with his soul. So all glories to your preaching and all the devotees that
Hare
are going
Krishna.
out and distributing books. It's very inspirational. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. One thing really quick that I would just like to say on that is that that's why it's very good to do Harinam and book distribution together, because even if one, thinks that, yes, I'll avoid these people by not taking a book. No, right? Krishna's the supreme cheater, so he's cheated them also. Why? Because they've already heard the holy name. The holy name has already entered their ear. It's gone through their ears into their brain and entered into their heart. And it's made that connection there with their eternal spirit soul. So they might think that, they might think that they were the winner, they were successful in avoiding Krishna. But we can see, no matter how big of a demon these people think they are, they're nowhere as big a demon as Kamsa. And not even Kamsa he was able to avoid Krishna. In fact, he was thinking about Krishna always. So by chanting the holy name on the street, these people, they don't know, they actually don't even know what's going on, what kind of great benefit that they're actually getting. So yeah, book distribution we should do, because Prabhupada described it as Brihad Mridanga, because that kirtan,